Hello, everyone. This is Frank DiMora, and we're in 2015, and I expect that we're going to see some exciting fulfillment of prophecy in 2015. And right here in the beginning of 2015, January 1st, there was an article that came out concerning Israel, and I want to share this article with you. And in my book, I write about this in chapter 9. You'll see a nation reborn, the dispersed return. And this is a prophecy that God showed us in the last days that what he was going to do with the Israel. And what he was going to do in the context of this scriptures that I'm going to be reading to you is that he was going to draw the people who had left Israel. He was going to bring them back in the last days into the homeland. Let me read the scriptures for you. It says, "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will bring my people Israel and Judah back from captivity and restore them to the land that I gave their forefathers to possess, says the Lord." And that was found in Jeremiah, the Old Testament, chapter 30, verse 3. And moving on, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bring your children from the east and gather you from the west. And I say," now get a hold of this, because I'm going to be talking about this, "I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth, everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I have formed and made." And that was found, again, Old Testament prophecy by Isaiah, chapter 43, verses 5 through 7. I wanted you to focus in on the north because there was an article that just came out, January the 1st of 2015, that deals with people leaving from the north going back to Israel. Now, Newsmax came out with this article today. Record number of North American Jews immigrate to Israel. A record number of Jewish immigrants from North America arrived in Israel in 2014, the Jewish Agency for Israel and the Ministry of Immigration Absorption reported, calling the wave a 10-year high, according to Ynet News. More than 3,700 Jews from the U.S. and Canada, as well as 525 from the United Kingdom, moved to Israel over the last year. Ynet reported, citing a 7% increase in those arriving from North America and 32% increase overall. About 20,000 immigrants arrived in 2013. Last year also saw the first with immigrants from France topping the list of countries from origin with 7,000 in 2014. That figure is double the number from 2013. And remember about the birth pangs of the last days that Jesus Christ talked about in Mark 13:8, where we are going to see these events being played out as a woman with birth pangs. Well, we're seeing this being played out with Jews returning back to Israel. Now, continuing on right here, it says, Ynet said of Aliyah, and that Leah is a term for returning back to Israel. The news outlet said, alone, soldiers coming to Israel without family members to serve as soldiers in the IDF increased by 10% in 2014, with 350 young Jews from North America enlisting last year. Now, I know that there's probably someone out there who doesn't know what the IDF is. That would be the Israeli Defense Force. So we have people from the free world leaving their homeland to go back into Israel, Jews, and to serve as Israeli soldiers. And then this last paragraph, 2014 was a year of record-breaking aliyah. This year also saw a historic shift. For the first time in Israel's history, the number of immigrants who came to Israel from the free world is greater than that of immigrants fleeing countries in distress. Nathan Sharansky, chairman of the executive of the Jewish Agency, told the Yeshiva World. So again, this is only one part of the puzzle of the last days prophecies that we know had to have been fulfilled, and they are being fulfilled in our generation. And as time goes on, there will be more Jews fleeing the countries that they're now living in to go back home. And there's going to be many reasons for it. One of those reasons you should be looking for in 2015, because Zechariah 12:3 talks about Israel being alone in the last days. The Jews are going to be the target, if you will, for many countries, and especially the Islamic countries. And because of persecution, I would imagine we'll see an influx of people, Jews, going back to Israel. But here's the bottom line. It's happening now. It has been happening. And if you want all the details about the numbers of Jews returning back to Israel and where they're coming from, just go to my book today, download the book, and you can read that documentation for free. But again, the bottom line is the word of the Lord, the living word, is very much alive, and it's showing us that these are the last days, and the Lord Jesus Christ is coming, and he is the truth, so get ready for him. Now, there's also information about the Aliyah, or the Jews returning back home, that came over the ynetnews.com. You'll see in 2014 a record-breaking year for Aliyah, and that number has really increased. It says the Jewish agency statistics for 2014 showed that immigration to Israel hit a 10-year high with the arrival of about 26,500 new olim. Now, in the other article I covered about North America and also France, but in this article they continue on to show us where the new immigrants going back to Israel coming from. It says, furthermore, about 5,840 new immigrants came to Israel from Ukraine. And of course, if you've been following the news about the war going on there, you could see why some of the people are going back to their homeland, compared to 2020 and 2013. And 190% immigration increase was primarily due to ongoing instability in the eastern part of the Ukraine. So as I said, many reasons why they're going home, but the Lord is bringing them together. And this is really exciting, because we know when this is happening, it's one step closer to the return of the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus Christ. Now, those that have been following my website and my YouTube channel know that on November the 1st, as you can see here, I put up a YouTube video about Ebola, using that disease as a weapon. Now, I took a clip from the Capitol Hill show, and he was discussing Ebola coming in the United States. And in this video, I talked about what would happen to ISIS if they did that. Let me go back to that area that I discussed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little clip of that video that I put up for you so you can see what I said, because I wasn't really that far off of what's going on now. It's interesting how the Lord will attack those who hate Israel. And of course, ISIS' major goal is to get rid of the nation of Israel. So they're cursed. Watch what I said from that November 2014 YouTube. Hi, and as it was pointed out in the previous video, since the borders of the United States of America are not really that protected, it would be very easy to bring in what they call here a weaponized Ebola. Now, this isn't the first article that has come out saying that there's a possibility that ISIS, the jihadists, would become weaponized with Ebola. You'll see another headline here that came out earlier in October. But let's think about this, because we know for sure that ISIS people are brutal and will do anything to try to kill their enemies. But logically, what they would be doing is not only killing off Americans if they brought it into America, but because of the way things spread nowadays, if they brought it into this country and spread it out to a large area, a large population, the population who didn't know whether they had Ebola or not would be traveling to different parts of the world, and the Ebola would end up coming in their own country. Now, most of the world knows that the Americans, their medical facilities are the best in the world, or amongst the best in the world. And so that they would be able to handle this Ebola outbreak, even if it was in a larger area, better than just about any other country in the world. And again, keep in mind, if people were boarding the planes, this Ebola, if it got that widespread, would be on board planes going back to the areas that sent it to us. In other words, it would end up back into the countries where ISIS is. And because ISIS is not set up, and the countries that they've overtaken are not set up like the Americans to combat against diseases, in the long run, all that they would be doing is wiping out their own people. But we do know, again, that in the book of Revelation, disease is going to wipe out millions. All right, so I'm going to stop it there and show you how the twist has turned. And I'm going to bring you to an article. There's a recent article. This article just came out January the 1st, 2015. Iraqi and Kurdish media reports ISIS fighters have contracted Ebola. Listen to what this report says.
Multiple Iraqi and Kurdish media sources have claimed that some Islamic State ISIS militants in Mosul, Iraq, have contracted the deadly Ebola virus, Mashable reports. The Iraqi outlets reportedly claimed that Ebola had started to spread in a Mosul hospital, the city, known as ISIS's most important strategic stronghold in Iraq, has been under the control of the Islamic State since June. Christy Feig, the World Health Organization WHO Director of Communications, told Mashable, "We have no official notification from the Iraqi government that it is Ebola." She said that WHO had reached out to authorities and asked if they needed help investigating the matter. Kurdish media network Zendin reported that ISIS jihadists' symptoms were similar to those shown by someone who has contracted Ebola. However, it is highly uncertain whether Mosul health authorities have the means, tools, or skill set necessary to test for Ebola, given the current hostile environment in the area. In late December, the Islamic State reportedly executed doctors who refused to treat their militant jihadists. The Washington Post said of the ongoing situation in Mosul, services are collapsing, prices are soaring, and medicines are scarce in towns and cities across the caliphate, proclaimed in Iraq and Syria by ISIS. Iraq's pro-government Al-Sabah, the morning daily newspaper, reported that Ebola made its way into Mosul through Africa-based Islamist terrorists who then linked up with ISIS. Mashable notes, however, that the majority of ISIS recruits in Africa have come from countries that have not reported any Ebola cases, such as Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco, Libya, and others.
So it's very interesting that they're fighting in Iraq with the lack of the medical that the United States has, as well as other nations that are not third world nations. So it's interesting, and it's something to take a look at, because we've seen many, many times throughout the Bible where an enemy wanted to use something against a righteous people, and that was turned against them. In other words, the Lord used what they were going to use against them, and he turned it on them and used it right on themselves. And we see this is going to happen again. In Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, you'll read about the Ezekiel war. And we see that this massive army is going to be coming down against Israel in the last days. And God, when he intervenes in this, that he's going to do the exact same thing that these enemies of Israel were going to do to them. So it doesn't surprise me at all that ISIS would end up with Ebola. They have fighters coming all over the place, and the good possibility, as we see in this article, that many of these people may have contracted this, and it will be spreading. And if that's the case, it's going to put a huge dent, and we're going to have to watch the news on this, but if that is the case, it's going to put a huge dent in ISIS forces being able to move forward.